G'day legends, I hope that you are having a fantastic day and a fantastic weekend. Firstly, thank you for all the lovely birthday wishes yesterday. It definitely means a lot. Now today we have a lot to go over and something that I've found incredibly interesting that I can't wait to share with you about maybe just some speculation about that new weapon system that we have maybe spoken about that is in the skies working over Ukraine. And I maybe have found a link and we're going to draw all this together. Now, we're going to look today at some propaganda. We're going to look at new bombs, some strikes into both Russia and Ukraine, and of course, a look at the maps and talk about what President Zelensky's response was to the Pope's words yesterday. Legends, my full-time job and what I spend every waking moment doing is going through different news reports, different articles, seeing who's funding that and seeing what bias they have to deliver you truthful information. And this can be very difficult. Well, today's video sponsor, Ground News, makes this very easy. So, of course, here we talk mostly about Ukraine, and Ground News has their own full page just for Ukraine. So let's take this story, for example, of the missile exploding near Ukraine's President, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Now, when we open this up, we will see not only the story and how different news articles are actually reporting this and what the title is, and that helps us get around just some of the clickbait. But then my favorite thing that we see on here is then the bias distribution. You can see who is reporting on the right, who's on the left, and maybe the center. And to cut through, I guess, all these different pushes we have from all the media around the world, then we can see how much is actually factual, who then owns this, and of course it will recommend us other articles. And as well, one of my favorite things is then the blind spots. This great feature, this shows you stories that are being completely underreported by one side of the political spectrum, meaning that if you only follow certain news sources, you may miss this information altogether, but not with Ground News and not with Blind Spot. Ground News helps us find truthful, honest reporting and see what biases are pushing on this reporting. So go to ground.news/OAM to stay fully informed. If you subscribe through my link for as little as $5 a month, you'll then get 30% off unlimited access for this month only. So thank you, Ground News, not only for sponsoring this video and channel, but making honest, truthful news available to everyone. Now, legends, we spoke over the past, say, month in length about how Russia does seem to have a massive increase in its airborne ISR capability. Of course, it's intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. And it does seem that this has increased dramatically. And I'm not the only one who has taken notice of this. Of course, we've seen, the HIMARS, we saw Patriot, but even well before this, we just saw the amount of videos coming out well behind the line, and then we see the FABs landing and the filming of this, and then of course we see the missile landing right near Zelenskyy as well. It just seems that over the past month or so there has been a big increase in that capability, and we've speculated about what has happened here. Is it a difference in air defense? Is it some orders difference? What actually has happened here? And we've speculated before, and I've got sent some intel about that there may be something new in play. So let's actually look at what we've looked at over the past couple of days. Now, of course, this dates back to when the HIMARS was taken out, but that it wasn't hit with an Iskander tornado, but a laser-guided weapon. And this was for a moving target. But he basically says, look, we don't know exactly what could actually have done this to hit something while moving. But what drone would it be? And what was the vector for the weapon? In fact, what was the weapon? The OL-30 is supposed to have a laser designated, but I'm not aware of a Russian system that could carry laser-guided munitions this far from the front line, except for, of course, for a fighter jet. But I doubt they'd risk it. Could be some new drone we don't know about. Now, this goes further. All in all, I think A is the most likely, saying that it broke down. B, but option C, which is the one we just spoke through, would mean they've made a huge leap ahead and are now capable of doing things that until now only NATO seemed capable of doing, including the Turks with the TB2, the Bayraktar drone. It would also mean they slipped all of this through Ukraine's air defenses, but we know for sure that was the case for at least the observation drone providing the footage. Now, with Patriot, we had 2 observation drones. With the HIMARS, we had at least 1, but we're getting more of these observation drones further and further behind the front line. And this is very interesting in this. This would spell real trouble for the Ukrainians, but I doubt it. That said, I think they'll get there eventually, and Ukraine better do something before they figure this out of increasing the laser designations and this increase in drones. Well, this is what I've got sent across today. Now, I have reworded this. All the facts still remain in this, but I've had to reword it just for some security stuff. But Russia possesses a drone similar to the MQ-9 Predator, albeit smaller, developed by the drone manufacturer Zala Lancet with Sukhoi. It has been reported that 2 S-70 drones are currently undergoing a weapons testing phase and have been deployed in the Donbass region over the past month. But these S-70s, this is what we're going to talk about. And if the S-70 was deployed, it would meet all the requirements that were set out in... Now, these are by different people, I should say, both trusted sources of mine, but would meet the requirements said in here. Local residents near Donetsk have observed these compact jets taking off from a nearby airfield. The armed forces of Ukraine have also received photos of these drones. Additionally, Russia has introduced an enhanced, faster and weaponized version of the Orion drone. Of course, this being the S-70. The S-70 raises significant concerns due to its reported advanced radar and thermal camouflage technology, rendering it nearly invisible until it's directly in line of sight on approach. Now, again, this very, very interesting. I'm telling you, this is definitely going somewhere. So, back in before the war. So with information about Russian systems, we really need to take things from before the war, because as soon as the war started, any sources that were Western, any sources that were Russian, everything just gets sort of blown out about capabilities, about how many, everything. So I was looking for stuff before the war about the S-70. Now, this from Defense News, Russia unveils upgraded S-70 Hunter drone with plans for fielding in 2024. And of course, this came out in 2021 with fielding expected 2024. Takeoff weight of 20 tons, measures 14 meters long, and a wingspan of 19 meters. I'll show you some images. This is a big boy for a drone. Now, this drone is expected to complement Su-57 fighter missions, with one jet able to work in tandem with 4 S-70s. And aviation industry told state-run TASS, that's Russian. If testing is successful, the drone will enter service in 2024. So that's from the Russian sources there. And then this one from Meta Defense. This was published September 18, 2019. So some 3 years before the beginning of the war. Intervene directly against anti-aircraft defenses in the depth of the enemy system using cruise missiles and guided bombs. But again, we see to enter service in 2024. Well, what year are we in? We're in 2024. So maybe the guidelines. Now, military equipment from all over the world always never meets deadlines, but maybe it has actually met a deadline, and this is speculative, but this is maybe what we're seeing, that many people are saying we're seeing something new in the air. We're getting all this behind the line footage. We're getting these strikes. We're not sure what it is. Seems like a laser designator potentially here. Now, we saw on this image here, so this was from the 9th of March, S-70 unmanned combat aerial, so the one we're looking at this base here. So it's saying that this is an S-70 over here by this guy, released the coordinates. Now, let's go onto this base. Now, this is where the coordinates are on the base. We zoom out, we zoom out, we zoom out. And of course, here's Volgograd, Rostov-on-Don, and it is fairly close. As far as bases go, it is fairly close to where Ukraine is by the claimed range of these things, well within the capacity to, have missions into Ukraine. Now, of course, what we heard about was these are to work in tandem with Su-57 aircraft. Now, we come down onto the flight line, and I believe that this here is a Su-57, and then we'll come up onto... I was just looking at this before. Now, I bet I'll lose them. Wait, I'm going to find this for you. Not here. Here, sorry. And I believe this is here, 3 more Su-57s. Now, this photograph, this doesn't show... the S-70, but we know that there are Su-57s 100% at this base, and we know from that geolocated footage as well, that there has been S-70s there. So all I'm doing is presenting you information and trying to put two and two together. Now, we know this footage was released from the Russian MOD back in 2019 of the S-70 drone as well. And of course, you can see the swept wing design. Looks like a little version of like a B-2 Spirit to reduce, radar cross-section. And this is filling in gaps of potential of what we are sort of looking at. Now, of course, this is a Su-57 aircraft that's meant to work in tandem with. Now, this is where, with working in tandem with these other aircraft, this is where the next generation fighter stuff all comes from, is working with manned and unmanned systems. This is where we can see the bomb bay doors opening. So that's where it goes from 5th to 6th generation. Australia, America, the West is very, very interested. We're laying in massive money. Australia just announced $400 million into our variant, I guess, of this. And we're going to go over this. So, we have this footage. This was from 2019. So we're talking 5 years ago, flying along with the Su-57. We're yet to see the Su-57s in action, at least proven to be in action. We have more footage here. This is a more recent footage of the S-70 with an aeroplane here too, and you can see how large the S-70 actually is. It's a very big drone, so this will give you a better idea of just the scale of this thing. So this Su-57, and of course then we see, once this guy steps across, the size of the S-70. So can carry a lot of munitions, can carry things like fuel, and of course, reconnaissance from there. So look, what I'm saying is this is speculative, but it does seem to line up with what we have been talking about. Now, this is what is said to be Russia's next generation of the 75 Checkmate, but not yet. And then the S-70, so it can carry missiles and lots of other bits and pieces of equipment too. Now, this lines up with a lot of what we have been speaking about in the West, of where we're moving all of our systems across to. Now, the S-70 looks a hell of a lot like the US X-47 Bravo. We see it here, then refueling off a tanker. Now, these are like the Navy variant here. We can see flying with an F-18 here. That is a that's a Super Hornet or Classic Hornet. I think it is a Super Hornet. So, it's very, very similar to something like this. Now, what is this meant to do? Well, these are meant to be, I guess, a force multiplier in the sky. So, same as we will see compact drones starting on the ground of carrying extra shit that we don't need to carry. So things like this can carry fuel and refuel fighter jets in the air. As soon as you undersling weapons on a plane, it greatly reduces its capability in the air. So this can carry some weapons for you and work as an extra weapons platform. It can carry more sensors. So it's working in conjunction with those systems. And we see that the US absolutely has been leading into that, the Navy with the X-47 Bravo. The US has a newer one, the MQ-25. Now, the MQ-25 is more of a refueler for Navy planes here, but of course, for them, not really. You can see a underslung fuel tank here, but as soon as you have that, you've got a lot of weight external to it. It changes the dynamics of the aircraft. That if you can have a system like this, much smaller than a tanker, much less obvious than a tanker, and if it gets taken down, it's not as important as a tanker getting down to refuel planes. So we have another photograph here of the MQ-25. This is the Boeing variant here. Now, this is said to be, currently for fuel, but there are potential plans to arm it as well. And of course, the F-35, this is what these are meant to work with. This is into the next generation, or the plane following the F-35. Then it will act as just an extra piece so they can control the weapons on that system as well. But it also has autonomous capabilities. Now, Australia is massive already in this space with Boeing and our wingman. So we have this, of course, it's done its first flight. Now, I think ours is actually the best looking of these wingmans, and we have a huge funding going into this. So the net investment will build 3 new next generation Block 2 Ghost Bats or wingman. They will have enhanced design and improved capabilities. Funding boost will enable to developing sensor and mission payloads, and integrated combat system and autonomous systems. So like we have been speaking about, the funding will go to developing this technique of the Ghost Bats together with each other and crewed aircraft. So they can do their own missions, but as well working with the F-35s. This will be used with F-35, F-18, and the early warning, the AWACS, of course, our aircraft. AWACS capability. Now, this is the $400 million that have gone through. The US Air Force is interested in the GhostBat to study how drones can pair with fighter jets in combat as the service looks and fielded an initial fleet of 1,000 uncrewed collaborative combat aircraft. So they're calling these CCAs. So collaborative combat aircraft. It's to work with the other systems. That can fly with manned fighters in battle. The US Air Force says drones like this will provide affordable mass by filling roles like missile trucks and conducting electronic attack and surveillance. So just carrying stuff off your plane that can help your plane. So it can carry the electronic warfare stuff. It can carry more sensors, or it can carry missiles for you that don't have to be because under your bloody wings. Now, the problem with like an F-35, F-22, Su-57 is as soon as you have bombs on pylons on the wings, your stealth capability is gone. So this can carry another one or two in its bomb bay doors along with yours and your bomb bay doors and are an affordable mass. So, of course, you're not losing a pilot or the full suite of a plane along with it. Work as a missile truck. So I know that's a long way around saying maybe potentially this is what we're seeing, but I think it's lining up with what I was hearing about from one of my trusted guys about, is there something new in the sky? Getting told that there's something being seen that reflects this, and as well with the losses that we have seen via the Patriot, the HIMARS, and a further increase in seemingly ISR capability well behind the line. Now, I'm going to talk about a loss here as well. We did see that a Ukrainian MiG-29 was actually shot down on the 8th of March, the same day or within the same 24-hour period as when the Patriot launcher got hit. Now, this is going to link in here. So we saw these images come out here saying that it was a wreckage of, saying it was a wreckage of a MiG-29. These came out through the Russian channels. So as we always say on this, with any losses, we leave it a day or two to see what comes up, especially when we have aircraft, because pilots are officers, so you'll be more likely to get an obituary rather than just a conscript soldier, and this goes with Ukraine and Russia. And here we have, this has been confirmed here, the MiG-29 pilot, Andriy Tachenko, died in a combat mission in the Donetsk region. This young lad here, I believe he was 24, and it's been confirmed as well through these photographs as a send-off memorial to him as well on the 8th. Now, what I want to bring up on this is reportedly that he was shot down in Pokrovsk. Now, we'll come into the Donetsk Oblast here, and then we will zoom in right near, then we want to be down in Avdiivka. Now, we'll see then Pokrovsk here. So you can see very, very close to the front line. Now, he was shot down here. Now, within the same 24-hour period, maybe very close, we had then the Patriot that was engaged in Serkivka as well. Now, of course, this is in a very, very close same area where it is said that potentially these new aircraft have been operating. Now, was this just a coincidence? Maybe I'm drawing a long bow. I'm unsure, but it is interesting to I guess, just speculate that maybe something here. And of course, the Patriot is probably here to cover things like his flights into here. There has been some speculation that he was shot down by a friendly fire incident as well. And there's some saying that the Russians shot him. So it's both ways. I'm not going to speculate on what exactly happened there, but I just think within the same period with what we're seeing, I think that is very interesting for a large front line. I don't know. Let me know what you think. My sources are trusted. They're good. They've got good backgrounds. So I don't know. I've speculated that are we seeing something else? And we know that there's Su-57 sitting here. We don't know if Su-57 has been used in the war, but we know that these would be used with these in conjunction. How far is the link between these? Is this the reason we're seeing an increased activity of the A-50s where they're getting hit over the Sea of Azov in Russia? That maybe the A-50s have something to do with it as well? Again, not really sure exactly, but I think maybe more will come out. But it does fit. It does sort of fit what we have been speaking about. Now, let's have a look then. We'll have a look at the maps because it is pretty quick here. So, of course, this is Ukraine, the capital of Kyiv. The red area is occupied since 22 and the purple since 2014. Now, it is being reported that Russia is having a tactical pause to regroup before launching into a large offensive action again in later March, being their second offensive campaign for 2024. So we're seeing nothing up in the north or in the east. The only change we're seeing on this map is we come down to the west of Ugledar, just in Shevchenko here. We do see between yesterday and then today, if this will load, we see that's easy to look at. We see just a small Russian advancement was made there. And here we go. We have it backed up by Rybar maps. Of course, we can see this is where Pavlivka is sitting up at this red dot. So these do line up. That Russian army made new advances northwest of Shevchenko, increasing the buffer zone around the village. As mentioned above, it is important to keep an eye on this front for future activities will increase significantly as the encirclement of Ugledar tightens, depending on the outcome of the Battle of Novomayalivka. So, of course, this is the Battle of Novomayalivka up here, what, of course, the Russians have entered, but there's still street-to-street heavy battles going on here. If this was to fall down here, Ugledar becomes in more, I guess, limited supply from the north. How does this actually look? But it is worth keeping an eye on multiple front lines up and down. So, we just need to move a little bit to the west near Huliapol, Marfapil in here. Now, there's said to be no difference on then the deep state map, although we did have reports maybe 10 days ago there was more pushes towards Huliapol as well. Situation south of Zaporizhia. The Russian army continued advances at Huliapol front, taking control over a series of plantations southeast of Shevchenko. Remember, this front was reactivated at the end of February, that's what we're talking about, and that it is expected to be a front to divert Ukrainian troops and not an offensive towards Huliapol. So, of course, we have Marfapil talking just in this region in here. We won't bother lining this up, but saying that they're going to pump guys in here to try and divert Ukrainian troops away from other areas, say in the east, to then try and have more advancement on the east. We see this all the time. We've got a very long front line trying to move where other elements are for your own good. Now, of course, Robotny in here, nothing has actually changed in this on deep state for a long time. But situations up front during the last 2 days, situation has hardly changed at Robotny. It is worth mentioning that Ukrainian army left the trenches in the south of the locality and retreated to the center. However, Russian army could not occupy these abandoned positions because of the Ukrainian drones, so the area is in the grey zone. So they've pulled back to better positions in the south of Robotny. Now, what is actually going on in here? Well, we know that Russia is trying to get back the defensive works in here and trying to gain more control, as this is one of the most likely places that Ukraine will push if they have a counteroffensive this year again, to try and get Tokmak, try and get to Melitopol. Of course, then that cuts off the troops in the southwest of Ukraine over here and are pushed down into their ultimate goal of retaking Crimea down here. Now, we'll go just into Avdiivka and have a look. Now, there's a lot of reports that Zelenskyy has come under full Russian control today. No map that I can see is showing this. Now, there is reports that another Abrams, bringing it up to 4 now, has been hit in Badachi, but varying reports also saying that this isn't a new one taken out here that we see, that it is actually the one from the other day that has just been hit with more and has been burnt out again. So maybe just hold your horses on before we say it is 4. I just want to show you this bit of footage because soldiers will be soldiers, that he's making a selfie, soldier near the Abrams. So this is a Russian soldier taking a selfie with one of the Abrams tanks in this Avdiivka front, where we are seeing them throwing these tanks into battle here as well. So using reserve forces, because Russia is attempting to really break through in here. Now, for the first time, Russia has seemed to capture a Leopard 2A6 complete here. This is a Russian soldier, and this vehicle looks in fairly good order, but we'd need to see the other side of it, of course, but said to have captured that. We know there was a Leopard 2A6 abandoned, hatches open, only in the past, say, 3 weeks, so it could be that one, but unsure. The MOD says this: Ukraine has almost certainly accelerated the construction of defensive positions on several areas of the front line. This includes anti-tanks, dragon teeth and ditches, infantry trenches, minefields, and fortified defensive positions. I will point out, remember when everyone took the piss out of anti-tank, dragons, teeth and ditches, and now look what we're seeing used everywhere. Anyway, it is highly likely the expansion of defensive lines will reduce Russia's ability to advance or exploit tactical gains as part of its ongoing offensive operations. The establishment of major defensive positions is indicative of the attritional character of the conflict and means that any attempt to conduct breaching operations will highly likely be accompanied with high losses. And this goes both ways. Russia has huge defensive works. Ukraine is building up its defensive works. It should have done this a long time ago. We wouldn't have seen breakthroughs that we have seen, or we may not have seen that. But once we have just huge defensive works, any push through and interrupt a breach here will have huge man and machine losses to get through any of those works. Now, let's have a look at a little bit more on the map. So we had, of course, Ukraine had, I've heard 41 drones came into Taganrog here to hit this airfield base here, and of course where the Russians modify and upgrade then the A-50 aircraft here. Now, there's been some big claims come out of here. The satellite images we showed yesterday really showed limited damage. Like it may have just been debris from something engaged. I wouldn't say that shows. People saying, oh, this shows, massive. It doesn't. The roof of the hangar, that's all glass windows on top, and majority of them look intact. And yeah, the side of something has concrete off, but that's not like a huge bomb has actually hit there. So on any losses in there, it's been a couple of days. We haven't seen anything come out, which by this time we always do. So I think that the attack there was at the majority thwarted. We have this of one of the drones that is said to come down in Taganrog as well. It's the only new bit of footage that has come out from there. Now, Ukraine has had successful strikes into St. Petersburg. So if we go on, Deep State probably won't let me, but of course this is Ukraine down here, and then we have St. Petersburg up here. Now, of course, with the Baltic Sea coming more under NATO control, with Sweden and Finland recent members, there will be more ISR capability shared across through NATO as well for Ukrainian movements up into this area for things like drones. Exactly what we see over the Black Sea. It's why we see the most success down in this area with things like this, and least up in, say, the northeast. But that drones were able to go from somewhere, we're presuming Ukraine, and target an airfield and a hangar in St. Petersburg. We do have a little bit of footage of this. So this is a Ukrainian drone said to be over St. Petersburg. We see here, cruising away. And then this is said to be a hangar at the airport burning. But as far as any damage reports, what's going on, currently we have no update on exactly what was hit and what the cost and fallout will be of that. Now, we need to have a look at the FABs. The FABs are getting dropped into Ukraine for a long time. Of course, 250 kilos, 500s. But now we are getting reports that there is now mass production of the FAB-1500, of course, a lot bigger bomb used as a glide bomb. And CNN has picked up this. They're a couple of weeks or months behind the 8 ball on this, but has done an article speaking about the FABs being dropped in Ukraine. Of course, these are significantly cheaper than something like a missile. And like we've seen, it seems like Russia has an increase in capability in the air, that these are getting more and more accurate, and we're seeing more and more of them dropped. So let's see what CNN says. Russia's new guided bomb inflicts devastation and heavy casualties on the Ukrainian front line. Russia has begun using a powerful aerial bomb that has decimated Ukrainian defenses and tilted the balance of the front lines. It has done so by converting a basic Soviet-era weapon into a gliding bomb that can cause a crater 15 meters wide. These are a very big bomb. FAB-1500, 1.5 ton weapon. It's got just over 600 kilograms of actual explosive in it. And from fighter jets at a distance of some 60 or 70 kilometers, of course, with gliding wings, these jets come screaming in. They tilt up, drop it, and then go back to safety, out of range of many Ukrainian air defenses. We'll talk about that. FAB-1500 is another example of how Russia is fighting the war in Ukraine, inflicting massive destruction before trying to take territory. And this has always been Russia's tactic if you look at even before this war, is rolling like artillery or massive destruction and then walk over and try and clear the territory from there. And this is no different in this, just with different systems. Now, the FAB-1500 is directed towards its target by a guidance system and pop-out wings that allow it to glide towards its target. This bloke has said they offer a new and far more destructive standoff strike option for many Russia's tactical jets that also helps pilots stay further away from defenses, so further back, and can then launch them in. And these have really changed a lot on the front lines. We're going to talk about some accuracy too. That soldier from the 46th has said, previously we were only shelled with artillery. Now the Russians have taken on the town more aggressively and started using Air Force assets, particularly FAB-1500s. Now, of course, he's in Krasnohorivka. So here we go. If we come down, we see Donetsk Oblast here, Krasnohorivka down here, and this is exactly where we have seen bombs like this land. Of course, we have Avdiivka up here, and we've actually looked over some footage of these landing here as well. Why are they using FAB-1500? Because the damage done by it is very serious. If you survive, you're guaranteed to have a contusion. So, of course, damage just from the trauma of the barotrauma coming off the systems like that. It puts pressure on the soldiers' morale. Not all their guys can withstand it. While they are more or less used to the FAB-500 by now, the FAB-1500 is hell. Yuri Inhart, Ukrainian Air Force spokesman, has told CNN on the eve and during the Battle of Avdiivka, hundreds of air bombs were launched within days. There were 250 of them used in Avdiivka direction in just 48 hours. And these are, of course, a dumb bomb. While manufacturing glide kits is a bottleneck, the basic explosive package is something they have in huge numbers. So Russia have an unbelievable amount of dumb bombs like this and can make a heap more of them. And of course, the cost for a system like this compared to a missile is, I think they put it somewhere as it's pennies on the dollar in comparison. Now, spokesman has also told CNN, our air defense is getting much stronger, but we still don't have enough. Their goal is not only to hit our frontline positions, but guided glide bombs are also flying further behind our defenders, to hit rear command posts, rear supplies, ammunition, and so on. So, of course, I've had a lot of information sent to me about Bakhmut and Russia trying to get Chasiv Yar, that a heap of glide bombs are landing in Chasiv Yar, which is behind the front line, and that now more and more glide bombs are starting to land in Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. And my mate telling me we know where they're going when they're going to launch them far, because we can start hearing the fighter jet. If they're launching them from 60 kilometers away from Chasiv Yar, they're like, we're not really hearing the jet. But when they're launching them, say, into Kramatorsk, then, of course, the jet then is far closer and we can hear it, and we know that those ones are going further and probably not landing on top of us. The attack aviation Su-35 and Su-34 bombers don't approach as close as they would like to. Of course, to hit them with air defense. If we had more long-range air defenses, we'd be able to take down those jets further from the front line. So take down the jet, not the bombs. Bronx says the development of glide bombs has given Russians a way to use their tactical air force opposed to long-range bombers. So you're not your Tu-160s, but your more tactical Su sort of fast bombers, equivalent to like F-111, our B-1, things like that, more effectively after its limited role in the first phase of the war. Of course, because they were getting taken down, weren't having the success we thought that they would have in the early days. He says the US Patriot complex is just about the only defense that has the range to counter the threat. Problem is, the Patriot is incredibly expensive and recently has been seen struck on the front line too, so it may be limited of how far towards the front line they actually move it. And of course, the Patriot is in limited numbers. Where do you put it? Do you put it at the front to defend the soldiers at the front line? Do you put it to defend the cities? Do you put it near tactical assets? We know these Patriots, wherever the F-16s land, if they're in Ukraine, there's going to have massive Patriot systems there to not be hit, so it's going to take it away from somewhere else. And they're talking about how the F-16 may help to turn the tide against these, but we have spoken in length about probably the limited use up in the north or the east of F-16s. It's probably more going to be effective out over the Black Sea, where they've got all of the Western NATO AWACS aircraft helping them in this area as well. It's probably more so going to be this. Now, I want to look at a little bit of propaganda, although that I believe is propaganda. So this has come out from this bloke, mega idiots. So, of course, Trump supporters donating to Russians to get their stupid Trump comments on North Korean artillery should be final conclusive evidence that the GOP is done. 10 years from now, I'll say I was a victim of disinformation and this was overwhelming, more from the dumbest, most obese sector of American electorate in history. So I think you can tell what he thinks about people that would vote that way. Now, what I'll say about in this, I've spoken in length about a week or so back that there will be huge information campaigns directly targeting Trump. Absolutely, this is going to happen because we know we don't know, but we have an idea of what Trump thinks about this war, his relationship with Viktor Orban, his relationship with Putin, and he has said that he'll end the war, that Ukraine's best hope to get back all these territories is to keep Biden in power. So we will see huge information campaigns against Trump. And I think there's some reverse psychology going on in here. But if funding was actually getting sent into North Korea, into Russia for things like this is a huge problem, and it would be easily trackable through other avenues, and these people would be absolutely in the shit for doing this. But I believe that this is more of an informational propaganda stunt more so than anything else. I'm not saying by these people. I think these people have sort of fallen for it, but I think that this is what it is. Trump supporters paying for signed Russian shells. So we're seeing this, of course, get shared everywhere. So you can see writing stuff on them, and specifically, of course, for Trump. So I do believe this is a propaganda attack there. We will see that. We will see more discredit done to the speaker, to Trump, absolutely, than we will see to Biden, because Biden, for supplying more war for people, that is, yeah, you get what I mean. Now, one last thing is, of course, the Pope had his words yesterday about maybe looking at a white flag and some level of surrender, some end to the war, and Zelenskyy has commented back on this, saying Russian murderers and torture chambers are unable to march further into Europe because they are being held back by Ukrainians holding arms under the blue and yellow flag. There used to be many white walls and houses and churches in Ukraine, but they have now been burned and damaged by Russian shells. This speaks volumes about who needs to stop for war to end. Everyone who defends life and people is carrying out the most honourable mission possible in the face of such an inhumane invasion. And we must fully protect life in our home. I'm grateful to everyone who supports our defences and defenders. When Russian evil launched this war on Feb 24th, 2022, all Ukrainians rose up to defend their country, Christians, Muslims, Jews, everyone. And I'm grateful to each chaplain who is with the army in our defence forces on the front lines, protecting life and humanity, those who support others through prayer, conversation, and actions. This is what the church is, one with the people, not 2,500 kilometres away, somewhere looking for a virtual mediation between those who want to live and those who want to destroy you. I'm grateful to everyone in and with Ukraine who is making every effort to protect life. I thank everyone who helps, who is truly close to the deeds and prayers. So having a hit back at what the Pope said yesterday. But let me know what you think about what the Pope said and what Zelenskyy has said back here about the church and where this front line is going, what is actually going to happen here, and of course this march further into Europe being stopped. This is what we're hearing in Ukraine before it can spill into Ukraine, of course, 2,500 kilometres, talking about the Vatican. Anyway, legends, thank you for your support. If you'd like to support me, there's links down below, but never feel obliged. Have a fantastic day. I'll speak to you tomorrow. Thank you. Bye-bye.